Now I'd like to introduce Ibrahim Osta, USAID's Chief of Party for the Tourism Project. Over to you, Ibrahim.
Well, thank you, Nancy, for the introduction, for leading us this morning. Good morning to you, to His Excellency the Ambassador. Good morning to our ministers. Thank you all for some very encouraging words you shared with us, a vision for the future that is resolute. We're ready to embark on the transformation and the growth of tourism rebound from the impacts of the pandemic. The USAID tourism team and I are well aware of the responsibility to deliver a true success story for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now, to explore how this success story will be achieved, we have a rich agenda with us today. We have some of the world's leading experts from think tanks, from leading companies in tourism development, influencers on the tourism industry world stage. They came to join, they were ready to come and join in person, but unfortunately we have the pandemic that prevented us from inviting them, but they're still ready to come. And they committed, hopefully in the near future, to come and have them here meet with their excellencies, the ministers, and the tourism industry. We have the World Bank, we have the UN World Tourism Organization, we have MMGY, one of the largest branding companies in the world for tourism destinations. We have eTourism Frontiers and TripAdvisor, Oxford Economics, a number of firms that have done special research that is going to help the industry, tourism boards, ministries make informed decisions about the future. All of this will be shared in this two-day webinar. Quite a rich agenda, very exciting, and we're going to present some actionable items moving forward. I had the pleasure of meeting Sava in October. She's in Šipovo. She is part of a family business. Her son runs the guest house. She hosts the guests with her fabulous meals, and her grandson takes the visitors on hikes, on bike rides, and fly fishing in the area around. And this is precisely the work that we are embarking on over the coming 5 years. How do we make tourism work for Sava, for her family, and for the thousands and hundreds of thousands of families around Bosnia and Herzegovina that can and should benefit from tourism? Tourism is a large industry, but at the same time, it has opportunities that have not been harnessed fully in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And the beauty of tourism is that it brings economic opportunities to areas that would not be served by other industries. Tourists travel around, they spread their money in every area that they touch, and therefore we need to be thinking of tourism development in a manner how we spread the benefits across the country. Sava is an example of our approach to tourism development, how tourism development must be people-centric, and it also has to be conservation-focused. How do we conserve nature? How do we conserve culture? But at the end of the day, it has to work for people, and everything we do and everything you will hear in the coming 2 days, how we take these big concepts and ensure that people in villages or in cities benefit from tourism. In a quick nutshell, the USAID tourism program is modeled around the concept of comprehensive tourism development. We're embarking on supporting a transformation of the tourism industry in Bosnia and Herzegovina, looking at world-class skills, looking at the enabling policies that allow tourism growth, businesses to thrive, to attract visitors from around the world, and to foster investment, both foreign and domestic. Of course, we have immediate goals ahead of us, stem the decline from COVID-19. We're going to discuss this in session 2, looking at specific plans for the immediate period, and then begin also to transition the industry to longer-term success, to be higher yielding, and certainly deal with the situation of seasonality of the sector, because there's much more to be gained from tourism than the country has been earning so far. Snapshot of the project. We're a 5-year project. We're based in Sarajevo, but we have also 2 offices in Banja Luka and in Mostar. We're going to cover all of the country. And some of the targets we have set for ourselves is enhancing the overall competitiveness of the destination and improving the brand image of the destination, making it more appealing as it deserves, and fostering investment, again, both domestic and international. My slides and the slides of all of our speakers are going to be available for download, and we have more information than we're going to discuss, all of the speakers. So please come back to them. It's going to be very valuable information and specific research done especially for this forum. Now, why tourism? Why is USAID investing in tourism, and why would governments want to prioritize tourism as engines of growth? Well, tourism is the 3rd largest industry in the world. 1 in 10 jobs across the world is supported by tourism. And what's interesting is that pre-pandemic, 1/4 of all new jobs worldwide were created by tourism. It's a fantastic industry to bring foreign direct investment in, foreign exchange, and certainly for the thriving of small and micro enterprises. But also for developing countries, tourism brings much bigger financial flows than even development assistance, international aid. So to help a country move to self-reliance, tourism is certainly a strategic sector to focus on. Take a quick look at what's happening here in tourism in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Of course, we all recognize the impact of COVID-19 on the sector worldwide, but also here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. 2020 experienced a drop of 84% compared to 2019. And I must add that this is larger than the drop experienced by countries around us. And so this is something for us to think about. Not only how do we rebound from tourism, but how do we install levers of resilience so that when another shock to the system happens, and shocks do happen from year to year, how can the industry be resilient and not experience losses as much as we have experienced? Now, up to 2019, things were looking good. There've been steady growth. 1.6 million visitors arrived, international visitors in 2019, 12% growth. It was actually one of the largest growth spurts in the world, in the Balkan region, as well as here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So fantastic growth over the period. And there's, of course, more room to benefit from tourism. And I will speak about that in terms of spread, in terms of yield, and otherwise. So looking at arrivals, where they came and where they spent their nights, 1/5 of arrivals ended up in Republika Srpska and 80% in the Federation. Of those that stayed overnight in the Federation, we see a concentration in the greater Sarajevo area. And look at, for example, the city of Mostar, the 2nd most visited city in the country, only experienced 6.5% overnights. So that when I spoke about recovery from tourism, I also spoke about transitioning the industry to be higher yielding. And this is an example of an area we need to pay attention to. How do we make sure that not only we have day trippers that are come here and maybe not spending the money, how do they stay and how do they spend the money? How do they help the people, again, like Sava, like her family, and the many others around. In Republika Srpska, in terms of arrivals, we have about half of 2 cities are attracting half of arrivals, but we also have an issue of the low occupancy. Overall, occupancy in the country is only two nights, and there is much more to be done and to be gained. So really, tourism is only earning a fraction of potential. Now, why is this happening? We asked our friends at TripAdvisor that help us understand what the situation is. Why is this happening? And TripAdvisor is coming in with a pretty extensive and detailed research tomorrow. Join the session and you will see some very rich information, not just about how the world sees Bosnia and Herzegovina, that's important, but they're also going to share with us how the world saw us before the pandemic, after the pandemic, and what we can do to compete with the new competitive set, because we have new countries that may be competing with us even more than before. But certainly lots to be addressed. Here you have an example of 57% of all international views, looking only at Mostar and Sarajevo. And you have some fabulous attractions in the country. Look at Travnik, pulling in less than 0.5% of views, for example. Yahorina, gorgeous, 1% of views. The world just does not know. And we have a responsibility to let the world know about the richness, about the diversity of this country, and make sure that more of them and the right type of visitor comes. The bulk of accommodation is 3%, 3-star and under. 92% of overnight stays are in hotels. So while the rural experiences here are rich and promising, not enough people are actually spending nights there. Again, that's an opportunity to drive more visitation to the rural areas and spend. Seasonality is pretty sharp. This is a 5-year view. And as you see, it's somewhat consistent. The winter months, despite the strength of Bosnia and Herzegovina's winter assets, quite attractive, not enough people are coming to the country. And there's a solution there with experience design, better promotion, and otherwise. And that would dramatically increase the tourism exports, essentially, that tourism brings. Now, when we look at this data and translate it into dollars and figures, about 3.8 million unsold rooms went from the existing accommodation supply. And the more supply we have on the market, more guest houses come in, we'll have more capacity even to earn money. But that's at least $380 million of lost revenue from the existing supply, and with a bit of investment in improving the yield, improving the quality, improving the diversity of experiences, and providing opportunities for visitors to spend, that money can go even much larger. And then factor in the economic impacts of tourism on the full GDP, then we're looking at probably around $1 billion of lost revenue. There's a huge potential for the country to earn money, for the people to earn money, and frankly, for the government to earn tax revenue. So this is, again, it's a strategic industry across the board. Air routes, we're doing okay, but we have 4 airports. Banja Luka and Mostar together pull in less than 10% of arrivals. Mostar less than 2%. And Mostar can serve as a second gateway to the country. There is substantial opportunity there to take a look at how routes are being promoted and the role of these airports to bring in more visitors, to deal with the seasonality issue, and provide more opportunities for more countries to come in. Now, the World Economic Forum ranks Bosnia and Herzegovina 105th out of 140 countries worldwide on the Tourism Competitiveness Index. And unfortunately, in the last report, we saw a number of areas slip from the previous year. So again, we have a great potential for improvement. And the good news, however, is that we know where we stand, and we have a formula to incorporate in future planning. But we also have a challenge with the brand and with the country image. Bosnia and Herzegovina is unfairly perceived. It's a gorgeous country. It has fantastic assets. People are absolutely wonderful, but it doesn't earn the international brand ranking that it deserves. It's 116th on the international scale, and Slovenia, for example, ranks 68 on the same scale, Croatia 27, I spoke to many of the tourism leaders in Slovenia, and they say, if we only have what Bosnia and Herzegovina has, our industry will be much larger. So certainly, not only the potential is there, but the recipe for success is available. Now, the question is there a winning formula? Can Bosnia and Herzegovina win on the world stage? Well, that was exactly an answer that the president of TUI gave when he was asked, how do you grow your business? TUI is the largest travel company in the world, 70,000 employees, $1 billion in sales every year, and they kept growing their business. And journalists asked, how do you grow your travel business? How do you keep growing it every year? And his answer was quite simple. He says, we're not in the business of selling travel, we're in the business of selling dreams. Now, the big question for us is, how do we ensure that Bosnia and Herzegovina has what it takes to win on the world stage, and does it have the formula to make the world dream? Well,
Zaprste pa leze.
Well, that was the answer. Can Bosnia and Herzegovina make the world dream? And the answer is, of course. And it can compete with the best destinations out there in the world. We believe that Bosnia and Herzegovina can and will be the next most attractive destination in the world. It has all the assets. People are hospitable. You have the nature, and we happen to be placed right next to the largest source markets in the world and the largest spenders in the world: Germany, UK, France, Austria. And then, of course, you have the Middle East with fairly decent airlinks. How can we capitalize on all of these? And what are the lucrative markets that we can capture? Quickly, I will speak about a new approach to engaging with the world based on psychographics as opposed to geographics. In the past, we were speaking about promoting the German market, but now we need to speak about a community. My colleague, Damien Cook, in the next session will speak about this. And but for now, let's take a quick look. We're looking at spirited travelers. That's one psychographic group. They're looking for engagement with people and culture. This is also, again, another asset, another strength that Bosnia and Herzegovina has. With 350 million people, just 3 markets in UK, France, and Germany can give us about 14 million, 15 million target audiences specifically for us here. And they're looking to show off. And Damien will speak to us about the power of the selfie and how can the social media help us magnify our message abroad. Another area we're looking at is cultural travelers, 320 million globally. And just from these 3 markets we looked at, 13 million should be primed for us to target. They're looking for independent experiences, not mass tourism. Fantastic for sustainability, for responsible travel. They travel a lot, they love to share, and they want cultural immersion. Again, it's a different way of reaching the market, and we are confident that we have all of the successes, levers of success here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now, how are we going to help Bosnia and Herzegovina take advantage of these global opportunities? The design of this USAID tourism project is rather comprehensive. It looks at a comprehensive tourism development approach that enhances the competitiveness of the industry across a value chain. So the value chain of tourism, beginning from branding, how do we make people consider coming here, ensuring that we can convert this interest into sales and make sure that they come. We facilitate these linkages. And then what do they do at the destination? The range of lodging, a range of gastro experiences, and adventure experiences, cultural experiences. And the country is so rich in these. Some opportunities exist for packaging, for improving quality, a bit of polishing, and certainly communicating to the world and converting these visitors into advocates. But underpinning all of this needs to exist an enabling environment for competitiveness, from the right policies, the right regulations, effective planning, and certainly the all-important nature conservation and environmental protection. Because we do need to ensure that whatever tourism development we're doing is going to be sustainable in the long term. Now, as we began designing our detailed approach, we held industry consultations across the board. Many of you on the call have met with us, you hosted us, and you shared your insights with us, and we thank you for this. And we learn as we go, and we're going to hear back from you. Again, we invite you today, from what you see, and you're going to see more details, share with us ideas for what else we need to think about in terms of dealing with the more immediate areas for development. But as we toured around the country and heard from you, we also learned that the most important part for us right now is to look at recovery. So we've been working with the government of Bosnia and Herzegovina on adoption of the COVID-19 protocols. We developed them for 17 tourism activities. They've been already adopted by the Republika Srpska government, by the Federation government. I know the Brčko district is looking at them. And our goal is to seek the World Travel and Tourism Council endorsement through the Safe Travel stamp. We've also already partnered with the tourism boards and the tour operators to create a tourism recovery plan that is sales and marketing oriented. And today in session 2, you're going to hear the details of the plan and specific campaign ideas. Please join us. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm asking you to stay because lots to lead into that plan. And we're going to share with you specific ideas and campaigns that not only the tourist boards are going to embark on, but we need all of you in the industry to take active part in this partnership and its delivery. And the first big area we're working in, or big umbrella, is the enabling environment for growth. And this looks at supporting entity governments with their own strategies. And Minister Kusharat earlier today reminded us that constitutionally the domain of tourism fits within the entity governments and Brčko district, and this is why we are partnering with all 3 government institutions to develop new 2021-2027 strategies that will harness competitiveness, develop these strategies through partnership with the private sector, and ensure that civil society has a voice as well as academia, because it's important that we have the entirety of the tourism ecosystem. And it's quite simple that we look at the tourism products. What do we have? How can we ensure that we have world-class human capital to deliver these experiences? How do we communicate them to the world and ensure that the platform for growth for small and medium enterprises, for large investments even, is in place? The other area we're looking at is how we support tourism partners with advocating for the right sorts of policies. And please, you have ideas, call us. We're looking at also supporting associations, so groupings of industry to work together as partners for development. Nancy Aslick, the mission director of USAID, spoke about the importance of conserving nature. And frankly, this is Bosnia and Herzegovina's key strength, nature areas. How do we ensure that the nature classified as protected is expanded? How can we contribute to improved nature park management and magnifying the tourism revenue that comes from these nature parks, and that the local communities surrounding them benefit from these? This is all going to be considered as part of the work we're working on. Now, how do we also support the industry with improving the quality of the product as well as with the service delivery? This is something that we'll be working on specifically. I'll speak about special programs. Your top right talks about outdoors adventures. So we're looking at a plan for the outdoor sector as well as supporting its implementation and to ensure that the operational safety standards, bottom left box as you see, are in place and are promoted to the world so that tour operators abroad and prospective travelers know that they will have a great as well as safe experience when they come. Let me now drill down on some of those programs a bit more. We looked at the French model of the most beautiful villages of France, and we found that it offers a fantastic model to capitalize on the charm of Bosnian villages and rural areas. So this is an area that we're going to have a discussion with you, with the government partners, with local community organizations and development agencies and others. How can we take this model and apply it here in Bosnia and Herzegovina and bring to the world the charm of the countryside? It's been implemented in a number of countries around the world. Lebanon has done a wonderful job with this. We're going to be looking at different models and take what makes sense from it. Basically, in a nutshell, it safeguards the aesthetics of the place, the architecture of the place, and at the same time, it brings out the traditions of each village. And we're probably going to look at competition between villages, which village could win, and add villages as we go. Now, the other area that's important is how do we capitalize on nodes of arrival or the hubs? Sarajevo pulls in 40% of all country arrivals. But when you start looking at arrivals into nearby towns, we saw earlier in one of the charts, Travnik is not very far from here, but even Konitz, it's an hour away, and it's getting a fraction, almost nothing in terms of arrivals. How can we drive a visitation from Sarajevo elsewhere? How can we drive visitations from Banja Luka to the areas around it? Again, a hub and spokes model. And we'll be speaking to our local partners about how this model could be deployed to ensure that we have countrywide gain from tourism. We're looking also at the improving the quality and professionalism of tourism workers. And I would say the human capital of tourism, not just workers in terms of the hospitality, and that is critical and important, but also managers, also tour operators in the industry. And we're looking at formal education, schools, universities. We're looking at on-the-job training programs, and we're looking at vocational. And quickly, we're going to begin with a workforce needs assessment. Most of you will hear from us very soon. We need to know what type of set of skills and the numbers that we need to be preparing for the coming 5 years. And then we need a human capital development strategy that is informed by the true needs of the industry to make sure that we also have the right supply, if you may, or the institutions, the curricula to deliver on the needs of a world-class experience that the world will expect when they come here. Of course, we need to also make sure that tourism works for all, and we need to make sure that women have improved opportunities in the industry, that we are including people with disabilities in the industry, and ensure that we have opportunities for the youth to make sure that most of them end up staying in the country as opposed to leaving. Now, one of the areas that could work miraculously is to ensure that training is also done in industry, not only in training institutions. And we have an approach called Pathways to Professionalism, and this is an industry-based training where essentially a tourism enterprise becomes also a training institute. And this is something that we will speak to our colleagues from the hospitality sector about. Now, we want to make sure also that we bring always the best in the world to Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we're bringing the best in terms of tourism higher education and university reform, and tourism education from the United Nations World Tourism Organization. The TED Quad program is especially for universities, and we're going to open the doors for interested universities to partner with us and set them on the path to achieve this really prestigious quality certification. This is essentially the ISO 9000 of tourism education. Now, destination branding is critical. There's a big discussion on destination branding. I'm not going to speak much about this, but my colleague Al Merchant from MMGY Global, the largest destination marketing firm in the world, is with us today. And he has a fantastic presentation, but I would just say that the area of supporting the destination brand, supporting product brands as well, is an area we're going to be supporting. Now, when we look at brand, it's important to also recognize that Bosnia and Herzegovina has some distinctive agricultural products. There are some products that only grow here, and we need to help magnify their economic value. And this is partially achieved by distinctive certifications. It could be geographic indications, it could be other sorts of certifications, and working with our colleagues from the government institutions, the Intellectual Property Rights Institute, the Food Safety Administration, and others. We're open to speaking to you. Call us if you're in honey making, if you're in herbs and medicinal and aromatic plants, if you're working in cheese, for example, creating these distinctive cheeses, local cheeses. Call us to help you with certification, and even local dishes that may be unique to the area that we also can help with plugging into the overall tourism value chain. Now, every business needs to have its oxygen, if you may. Improving access to capital is important. Again, call us if you have specific needs for access to finance. Our role is to bridge the finance needs with lending institutions. And we're beginning with an assessment of what exists out there and publicizing the sources of capital that exist. We're also supporting investment promotion across the board. Now, one of the areas we need to work on, of course, is attracting higher yield visitors. We have a large program associated with this area. One is looking at how do we enhance the appeal of Bosnia and Herzegovina as a tourism destination. I'll give you an example. In Jordan, we attracted one of the influencers on the right-hand side to promote the Jordan Trail. And not only was he promoting it to hundreds of thousands of followers, but also clothing brands started picking up the story. Now, on the left, one of the influencers we invited to Lebanon came in to speak about food and promote the food products. You just see here in this video, this is one of 10 videos that he produced, 1.7 million views. And these are prospective travelers that could be attracted to the destination. And these are some of the examples that we could look at. But also, not only we're going to the consumers, and that is important, and my colleague Damien Cook will speak about this, again, is also about how do we reach the tour operators. And my colleague Jack Delph in the final session tomorrow will speak about business-to-business marketing. But to begin, we're also looking at expanding the international travel agent network, setting Bosnia and Herzegovina. And this is an area that we're going to begin with an online training academy and supporting the tourism boards with their own development for UN WTO certification standards as well. And finally, in this area with the businesses, looking at digital transformation of the sector, whether they're looking at industry-wide solutions or digital clinics for specific businesses. Finally, we're looking at supporting local communities with the rural products, handcrafts, a slow food destination potentially in the city of Trebinje, supporting the wine route and the Herzegovina region, and again, supporting the distinctive agricultural producers that we have in this country. This is in a nutshell, a snapshot of the project. Please get in touch with us if you have questions, if you have ideas. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your suggestions, but we'd love to also engage with you and ensure that you are partners with us in developing this tourism sector, this very precious tourism sector. Now, also join our Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. Our announcements are going to be there, and great news, opportunities to join, and how to participate in the training programs or otherwise.